Hey guys, welcome back. In this session, we will learn about loops. Loops is an important concept, and I have seen a lot of people getting confused about loops. In this session, we will see what are loops, what are different kinds of loops available in VBA. We will try to implement each of them in VBA using a code. So let's look into what are loops. So as we discussed in our previous session as well, programs are generally linear in nature. What that means is line 1, line 2, line 3 are executed in order. Loops help you execute a certain section of a code in a repeated manner. For an example, if you have a code to write a certain cell value, it gets repeated over a period of time. So when a general program flows, we have a condition. We check if the condition is true, we execute a certain section of the code. And after execution of the code, the program execution goes back to the condition, again checks the condition, and if the code is true, executes the code again. The process of this executing the code again and again while the condition is true is called looping over a particular set of statements. And this process is called loop. Once the condition becomes false, the program comes out of the execution and exits the loop. And it executes the statement which is just after the end loop statement. Let's look into different types of loops available in VBA. So the first one is for. The syntax of the for is very simple. It says for if a number is between some range, execute the code and next number. For an example, in this say the number is equals to 1. When it comes to for condition, it checks if the number is between this range 1 to 10, then it executes the code and next increments the number value by 1. You can change the incrementation from 1 to 2 or 3 as an optional parameter for. While loop. While loop also does the same thing as for, just that the syntax is different for while loop. There are scenarios where while loop becomes handy than for loop. There are different business scenarios or the program execution scenarios, which we will talk about it later to understand when to use for and when to use while. But from a execution point of view, while loop and for loop provides the same execution results. The syntax of while loop is also pretty much the same as for. It says while checks the condition. If the condition is true, then it executes the code and it ends with the line w end. Unlike for, it does not increment the value which is being used in the condition automatically. So if you want to execute the similar code which was there in while, where number is equals to 1 to 10 and then execute the code, in the case of while, you'll have to manually increment that number within the while condition. If you look at do while loop, this is also similar to while loop. All the loops function in a similar manner. So the syntax of do while is do while the condition is true, execute the statement and then loop. Do while also has an option with a new syntax where the condition is checked towards the end of the loop. What that means is this do while will execute at least once even if the condition is false. So there can be a scenario you want to execute the code at least once even if the condition is false. In those scenarios, do while loop comes handy. Let's look at them into a VBA code using a demo. On your Excel, go to Developers tab, View Code. Let's create a subroutine. Let's create a variable. Now, when I say I is equals to 1, for I is equals to 1 to 10, next I. Now, this is my looping statement. I say for I is equals to 1 to 10, which means it will go from 1 to 10, increment I on the next I statement. In between this, I can write a piece of code which will be executed again and again. Let's write a value into an Excel cell, worksheets, sheet 1, dot cells, dot value, is equals to I. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to write the value of I into a cell value. I have specified 1 comma 1. In this case, what will happen is it will override the values. So I'll change the row index from 1 to I. So what will happen is it will increment the row automatically and will try to put the I value in the next row. Let's run this code and see how it works. If you see, the loop has executed 10 times and the value has been written into an Excel cell using worksheet cells function, and all those 10 values are written into an Excel cell. I always stores the next value, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and specifying I inside cell of row index, it puts the value into a new row every time. You can achieve the similar thing using a while statement as well. When I say while I is less than 11, do this wn. So this will execute the statement again and again for 10 times, that is less than 11, and try to write it into the worksheet. Let's clear this and see how while loop works. If you notice, the program has gone to an endless loop. It's not even stopping, it's still executing. Why that's happening is, I mentioned in the concept saying that while does not increment the value of the condition automatically. Unlike for, which had a statement called next I, which was incrementing the value of I. Here, the value of I is not incrementing every time. By that, what it means is I value is always 1 and it's trying to check if 1 is less than 11. Since the value of I is not incrementing, 1 is always less than 11, it has gone to an endless loop and still executing the code again and again. So let's stop this code by pressing the escape button. Okay, my program execution has stopped. So in order to increment it manually, what we'll do is I is equals to I plus 1. So every time the condition becomes true, it is incremented by a value so that it changes the value and the condition becomes true every time. So this incrementation is generally done after your execution of the code. Let's run this code. If you notice now, the execution of while loop also is pretty much similar to what is the execution of for loop. Let's also look into do while loop once. If I say do while and end it with loop, it becomes a do while statement. I can clear all this and I run this again. It does the exactly same thing. So while, do while, for do exactly the same thing. Also, do while provides an additional thing which we can do is checking this while condition towards the end of the loop so that it executes at least once. So even if the value is 11, which means the condition is false, what will happen is this will execute at least once and print that value. Let's clear this and check again. If I run this code, what will happen is I is 11, so it will try to put a value of I in row 11. Exactly. So do while, as I mentioned, run at least once. Rest all the concepts of the loops between for, while and do while remain the same.